triple stamp a double stamp. You can't triple stamp a double stamp, Lloyd. You can't triple stamp a double stamp. Lloyd, you guys! Enough!
Sup guys, it's your boy Benny. So, should you trust the media? Should you trust your government? Well, the answer to that question is absolutely not, because they have lied to you so consistently and often misled you, or just straight up stopped the truth from coming out. It leads to a number of major questions in places of extreme consequence, like in Lahaina, like in Maui. How the hell did these fires start? Why can't we film there? Why do we know nothing about why they didn't sound the alarms? Why would they send kids back home to a burning house? Why did they close down the roads? Why wouldn't they release the water? Why does Oprah own so much land on this little island? And is there a lot darker and more malevolent things going on that we don't even know about as of yet? Well, joining me now is one of the few journalists who was able to make their way into the city of Lahaina, the one that was burned to a crisp, except for the really rich parts, except for the mansions, you see. A city that apparently got so supernova heated that the cars melted in the middle of fields. So strange, so curious, so many unanswered questions. And that is why we go directly to the source. Joining us now from Lahaina is Nick Sortor, independent journalist. Nick, thanks so much for being on the program. Can you explain to me exactly where you are, maybe without revealing your exact location? Because I know you've had a tough time reporting there in Maui.
Yeah, so basically what I'm going to say is I'm in Lahaina, and I chose a nondescript background so that, people will stop, following me around and threatening me. So I'm sure you understand that.
You have had quite a bit of that. I've seen footage of people coming up on you during live interviews. I've also seen footage of you getting put in a headlock. Can you describe that?
Yeah, so this has been like nothing else I've ever covered before. The hostility that people that, aren't even local to Maui or especially Lahaina, they're coming after me, on Twitter. They're giving me death threats. They're calling my phone. They're calling my old employers, threatening me. And then you see when I had this confrontation with the mayor in the video that you're showing right now, I was asking him where the missing, or just about the missing children, how many are dead. They have cadavers. They should be able to identify their rough ages, according to a pathologist that I spoke to about this. And I got put in a headlock by somebody that claims they were Maui police, but would not identify themselves. If you notice, all the other press was able to keep going with the mayor, but it was me that they didn't want having anything to do with that conversation.
I'm old enough to remember a couple years ago when it was all freedom of the press is under attack. This is a critical attack on the press. People wrote books. Jim Acosta wrote books. Jim Acosta was never put in a headlock for asking questions about missing children inside of this extremely mysterious fire that destroyed only the poor parts of the town.
Right. And, Jim Acosta, if you remember, oh, my gosh, he was such a martyr when he wouldn't shut up during Trump's press conferences and Trump ended up revoking his press credentials. Right. That's the worst thing that ever happened to Jim Acosta. Now, if you were to have Jim Acosta come out here and if he was covering this, God forbid, he would never do that. It's not important enough to him. But if he did, he would be one of the people that'd be yelling at me saying, are you a credentialed journalist? Are you with a credible news organization? Yeah. And that's what I've gotten here several times. So,
because that's what the First Amendment says. The First Amendment says freedom of the credentialed press. Make sure that you make sure you get your permission slips to ask questions of the powerful people before you suck their toes. So you're doing absolutely none of that. You're actually asking real questions. Can you describe, is the devastation as bad as it looks like on the footage that we've seen?
Well, so, Benny, it depends on which video you're watching. Are you watching videos from the mainstream media, or are you watching them from independent reporters and, people that are giving their testimony about what happened that day, locals that weren't pre-selected locals? Because, most of the stuff that you're going to see in the news, the mainstream media, the credentialed media outlets, you're going to get people that have been hand-selected. Okay, it's not true stories that are, that haven't been pre-vetted. It's what they want you to hear, and that's the issue. And then we can't actually even see into Lahaina without a drone. at this point because they have it all fenced off all the way around the town, miles of fencing, checkpoints everywhere, guarded by military. They now put black sheathing all around it. So now you can't even see inside. Yeah.
You have your tweet up from this morning, not to interrupt you, but just to augment. Here are your photos from this morning of the military garrison now of Lahaina, which is the town that saw the most devastation. So just to show you that Nick is bringing the photos and the evidence along with these shocking details.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, Benny, it's seeming to get more and more militarized every day. And it worries me a lot because I do know that I'm on these guys' radar. They know who I am as soon as I get anywhere close to them. They call me out by name. And, you constantly feel like you're being watched, but I don't understand why the military presence is increasing. That's the question that I really need to be able to find out.
Are these guys military? Because I'm just looking at like what looks like trucks full of soldiers. Is this the U.S. Army or who are these people?
Well, so some of them are National Guard, but many of them are actual Department of Homeland Security, the DHS. I have never seen anybody from DHS in military fatigues, but maybe I've just not been in the right spot at the right time. This is the first time I've ever seen that before. And so you're under the impression that they're military.
So, yeah, I mean, I've never seen DHS soldiers at the border, even though they allegedly run our border. I've never seen a military presence like that at our southern border, but here they are in Lahaina. Right. It makes no sense, as they say. So you said, are these pre-prescribed selected residents to come and give the official narrative? The videos that have been captivating our audience have been these interesting independent videos from a guy that, as far as we can tell, ran a real estate channel on YouTube up until the moment of these fires. And he's videotaping these cars and saying, wait a second, the burn points of aluminum is 1,200 degrees. Like, your oven doesn't get that hot. And yet here are these cars in the middle of a field and they're all melted. Not just melted, like they're so hot that the aluminum has liquefied and is traveling down the hills, right?
Right.
And so how did they get so hot? So your thoughts, Nick?
So it depends on which way they don't answer any of these questions, first off. I mean, you can go to a press conference, try to ask those questions. I'm not allowed to go into press conferences anymore, so I'm not going to be able to ask that question. But when it comes to even getting close to that stuff at this point, no sort of expert is able to go in there, some independent expert, and look at that and try to theorize how aluminum seems to have liquefied. And because they keep you so far away from the perimeter. What I will mention, though, is a lot of these cars that are like this, many of them are strewn all over the road, because people were desperately trying to get out. They were desperately trying to get it. The roads were blocked. They're trying to spin around. The fire is coming. They've got their children in the car, and they weren't able to do it because it was so jammed up. And no matter how big and how hot that fire was burning, they still were not allowed to move by Maui police.
Nick, can you confirm the reports that they blockaded the roads to keep people inside the burning town of Lahaina, effectively pushing them back towards an oven?
Yes, 100%. 100%. Like, that is not even being questioned at this point. Now, the government doesn't want to talk about it because, at best, it's criminally negligent.
Yeah.
But they were I'll tell you right now, the only people who survived were the ones who disobeyed, the ones that pushed through the barricades, the ones that, went through the grass. There was one that even, tried to push their car into the ocean to get away from the fire. And it's so sad. And a lot of these families, like I said, they died together in there, and the police would just never pull back the barricades. It's mind-boggling to me how you can just let people incinerate like that.
So that I guess you were learning a very valuable lesson there, which is maybe you should sprinkle a little bit of skepticism on the official narrative and on official government orders, because it's only the people who disobeyed and went around the barricades, according to the Associated Press, that survived. There was light made of this tragedy by Joe Biden when he got on the ground. Joe Biden making jokes about how hot it was, telling stories about how he once had a small microwave fire or something, popping some Orville Redenbacher, and how sad it was that his cat, got scared fired and that he might have lost his Corvette. Was that well received by the people of Lahaina and Maui?
The actual people of Lahaina, none of his visit was reassuring. None of it went. I mean, honestly, none of it went well. It was a total wreck because nothing he said resonated. It's like he couldn't connect with any of these people in the town. He's the president of the United States, and he still wasn't able to bring any hope or give these people any sort of idea that they were going to be able to recover with his help. First of all, you couldn't get anywhere close to him. And the people that were able to get close to him were, again, handpicked people that would simply parrot the narrative. It's the same people that you're seeing on the news, the same residents that they interview on the news that don't represent most people in this town. And that just made Biden look even worse to these people. And there was one lady that was like, he can take that $700 and he can shove it and leave. Get back on the plane and get out. Because, you know, they're not even taking him seriously at this point. And keep in mind, I'm in Hawaii. Yes. I'm in Hawaii. This is one of the bluest states in the union. And they're going to end up turning the island of Maui into Texas. Like that's how bad it's gotten.
Yeah. Build the wall. It's amazing. You know, Oprah has a wall. Mark Zuckerberg has a wall there.
And now Lahaina has a wall. And
now, yeah, that's exactly right. So, dude, please tell us, like, I'm sure you've gotten to know locals. What do they think of Joe Biden? What do they think of the government's response?
I have not met a single person at this point that is even remotely happy with the government response that they've seen out here. FEMA is a disaster in and of themselves. They're making people's lives almost worse because FEMA came in, and when FEMA comes into an area after disaster, people are like, oh my gosh, you know, they're going to be my heroes. They're going to come through for me and make sure that I'm taken care of, even though I've lost everything. You know, the federal government is here for me. But, you know, especially when these people see all the money that's going to Ukraine, and I'm not even just saying that, I hear it all the time, because that's what you're seeing in the news nowadays. Like, even over the past several days, oh, here's $1 billion, here's another 300 million, there's 1.3 billion over the past 2 days alone. You know, and these people are seeing that, yet all they're getting are denied for FEMA aid or $700. And trust me, these people don't even want the $700 just out of, just out of anger. They'll take it, but man, it's insulting to them. That's a half week's worth of rent for a lot of these people. This is the most expensive state in the country.
So what you have seen has been a deep personal animus by the locals for the federal authorities, and also based on the deep biting insult that they somehow perceive of the people who live in Ukraine to be more important. Quite evidently. Listen, if you want to know where someone's priority is, you look at their checkbook, right? Like, what are they spending money on? Is it booze? Is it cigarettes? Is it their children? Is it hookers? Like, I guess if you're looking at Hunter Biden's checkbook, it's all of the above. Yeah, that's right. But like, it's all of the above except for your children, except for his illegitimate children. But like, if you look at the federal government's checkbook, you'll see no prioritization to the people of Lahaina.
No, and think about how far $1 billion would go to help the people of Lahaina. I'm sorry, you know what? I'm a really fiscal conservative. I'm very fiscally conservative, but this is where I want my tax dollars going. Yeah. These people, it's not their fault. They didn't do this. Okay. It was at a minimum, it was the idiots in charge of the government out here, both state, federal, and local government. Okay. Mm-hmm. They knew that something like this could potentially come, and they didn't do anything to prepare for it. Although people have been sounding the alarm on it, no pun intended, because they didn't actually sound any alarms in this case.
Yeah, exactly.
But they knew this fire was coming of some kind. But, you know, the locals were just ignored.
These are some of your photos also from X. I mean, the devastation is absolutely massive. What about the conversation having to do with how these fires started? Obviously, there's no shortage of theories around there. I see that you're potentially wearing a blue shirt, so at least you're protected from the space lasers. But legitimately, I did see some footage that there was a downed power line, and there's been a lot of conversations about the electrical company, but then the electrical company says they shut off the power to those downed lines. They didn't take care of the grass, DEI, they kept the water from the town. How did the fire start? Does anybody know?
Look, I don't even know if the government officially knows how the fire started. If it was started with down power lines and such, I don't understand why the lines were still. So the fire was originally, when it sparked, it does look like the first portion of it, at a minimum, was due to a downed power line. Okay. And then the lines were de-energized. The fire department came in and said that the fire was 100% contained. And so all the firefighters left and went to different parts of the island. So there really weren't any firefighters there. You know, once this fire, this supposed 100% contained fire, ended up reigniting and wiping out most of the town. However, this was the lines actually went down the night before at about 1 a.m. And so it wasn't for another 10 or so hours before when they were blocking the roads and such. These lines were already de-energized. And so I still don't understand why they were blocking the roads then, when the lines were de-energized and the process of removing the lines from the roads was already well underway.
Yeah, there's so much of it that doesn't make any sense at all.
And we can't get any answers. They won't tell us.
And only a guilty person would try and obscure or run away. If you are innocent in a case, you're like, please bring the case. Please, here's the evidence. Here's my phone. Go through my text messages, right? It's only the guilty person that tries to hide and obscure. That tries to like sneak or slink away and puts you in a headlock. So yeah. I want to make this I want to be very, very like firm and clear on what we do know. We do know that they withheld water from these people. We do know that they blocked the road. We do know that they didn't sound the alarms. And we do know that they pushed people back toward the town whilst it was burning. Is that correct?
That is all absolutely correct. You know, we're talking about water. Firefighters that were in the town at the time, because there were some still that, weren't on duty. They were, at home with their children or something like that. And they would end up going out and, trying to fight the fire. A lot of them were, volunteer firefighters. And the fire started sparking, but they had no water. They're trying to fight a fire with no water. So, I was able to talk to one of these people, and they just, they don't understand that aspect as to what do you expect me to do as a firefighter when you're not giving me any water? Right.
Yeah, exactly. Like, these are the natural elements of the universe. And this is how fires go out. They either flame out because they run out of things to burn, or you put them out, typically through water if you have no other means. That is, it seems so utterly craven and so suicidal to do to these people. I mean, you can understand why there's so much animus and so much confusion about this, because it did seem like at some level, either incompetence or malevolence, they wanted the town to burn.
Yeah, and honestly, Benny, a lot of people believe that, even people that live here. They think that at a very minimum, they let it happen. They're not necessarily saying that they set the town on fire intentionally, but they have been fighting this battle with developers for decades now that want to come in and take these people's land away, because a lot of them have lived there for generations and generations, longer than Hawaii has even been a state. And I spoke with a developer, one of my sources, he is a large developer around here. And he's even sounding the alarm to me, telling me that, what they're trying to do, how they're going to do it. He mentioned the fact that a lot of these properties have been in the same family for so long, and being that it wasn't a state before, the properties aren't even deeded. There's no title to the property. And, what happens now? Now that, it's been burned to the ground, it's very easy for the state to come in and just take it. And the governor already said that he was going to try it. That was one of the first things he said after the fire, that the state was going to acquire the land.
There's been an enormous amount of land acquisition in a very confusing and quite creepy way. Oprah here, the Daily Mail, Oprah snaps up another 870 acres in Maui for a pittance, by the way, for $6.6 million. My goodness. She owns 2,000 acres in Maui. Maui's not huge. That's a lot of land. Why so much land for a single person on the little island?
Man, it's really hard to tell. But, what I can tell you is all those acres 330. What's she up to? 520 acres, and then another 330 acres.
2,000 is what the reports say. 2,000 acres.
Gosh. Yeah. So one of the problems that they're having right now here is where they don't know where to set up any sort of temporary housing. There are companies that are willing to ship in prefabricated housing units, not like FEMA tents. If it were up to FEMA, everybody would be in a tent.
Well, look at this, Nick. Look at it. Look at this. Look at that giant home right there.
You could fit a decent amount of people in there.
So Oprah's house, and it looks like she's going through renovations, and it looks like she has pie for everyone. So I haven't once heard. I follow this stuff pretty closely. I haven't once heard Oprah say that she's going to open up a single acre of her 2,000, nary her own home mansion on this property. Maybe I'm wrong. Has Oprah given any land to these residents?
No, she's too busy having middle-class people like you and me donate her money so that she can possibly give it out. Nobody has seen any of that money, just to be clear. But
interesting.
The thousands of acres, you can have people that could bring in prefabricated homes. They bring in, at least 1,000 of them. It's a large company that's going to do it, and I'm actually going to speak with one of the executives here this weekend. Cool. And they're offering to do all this for free. They just need the land for it. But the government here won't even give Samaritan's Purse any land to use. They're like 20 minutes away from Lahaina, and they're the most useful organization here, to be honest.
Samaritan's Purse, the private organization, not the government organization.
Exactly.
Yeah. So wow, wow, really, these people owning these plantations in Maui and not able to give anything to these poor individuals. Mm-hmm. That's terrible. Oprah did get massive backlash for this whole, I only have $3.5 billion. Please donate money to me so that I can funnel it through. I can launder it through the entertainment fund run by Warner Brothers, and then who just gave The Rock a movie, of course, Black Adam. And then eventually it'll make it to the people. So you're saying that no one has gotten any of this money. Do they even want this money from Oprah?
Well, I mean, they're talking about they made these promises that they were going to give them $1,200 or $1,400.
Yeah, $1,000. Oprah did a video about how excited she was that everyone can get $1,000.
Yeah, that's no, not a single person that I've spoken with, and a lot of people. We talk about Oprah. We talk a lot about Oprah because Oprah is big in the story out here. She is, she's all of a sudden trying to make her presence known out here, but only by video. Nobody's actually seen Oprah. And Oprah's not walking around with checks. You have people here, like local people, that are walking around handing out $100 gift cards, Visa gift cards and stuff. They've given a lot more money than Oprah has at this point.
Wow. So
she is here for PR reasons only, in my opinion.
Interesting.
So she needs to step up to the plate.
So people have a bad opinion of Oprah there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they have no reason to have a good opinion of Oprah at this point because in reality, they're worried about her coming up and taking their land away.
I mean,
she's buying up half the island at this point.
2,000 acres. I mean, that's why if this was a Midwestern state and it was China doing that, we'd say, hold up, China's buying half the Midwest. But Oprah can do that on this teeny island?
Mm-hmm. The land in Lahaina, just to let you know, Benny, is some of the most expensive in Hawaii by far. It's extremely desirable land, which is why people have been trying, the billionaires have been trying to buy it up for a long time. And, so this is the prime opportunity, and they're going to fight this hard. And when I say they, I mean the billionaires coming in trying to pull it. They're going to pull out every political favor, no holds barred. They'll spend whatever money needs to be spent in order to make sure that these people don't get their town back.
They're such unbelievable frauds. They say that they stand up for the working people. These Marxists, man. We stand up for the working people and for the underclass. It's such a lie. It's such a lie. When given the chance to actually serve the people of East Palestine or Lahaina, they do nothing. I mean, they ignore them. They spit on them when they're down and after they've chemically bombed their hometowns. Yeah, exactly. And we were seeing. Yeah, you and I had a conversation during East Palestine. Actually, I know you went out there, and you did dang good work out there. And it's
this is almost East Palestine, but on like another level almost, because we're talking about all of these people. You know, we're still we don't even know how many people are missing at this point, because there were 385 that were missing the other day, and then the government comes out and says, "Oh well, we found 245 of them," and then they said an hour later, "Oh well, actually there are another 243 people that we need to add to the list." And so the list went right back up, and it ended up a net change of 3 within an hour. So we have no idea how many people are still missing, and they're not looking like they're going to tell us. They're just waiting on us to go away.
Nick,
they're gonna soon figure that out the hard way, that we're not going anywhere.
So you're not going anywhere, Nick. What is the thing that you've seen? Final question here, on the ground, that would that hasn't been fully reported, right? That would actually shock the normies. What is the lie? What is the biggest lie that's being told that you have exposed or that you have seen? What's the major takeaway?
So the major takeaway is that the government is here to help, and that's people like the Red Cross, or the Red Cross is a government-funded organization, right? They get their money from the government. But another thing that we found out the other day is that the Red Cross is actually bringing in homeless people from Oahu, from a totally different island in Honolulu, and paying for their hotel rooms in some of these resorts now. And the reason that somebody tipped me off that works at the hotel was telling me that, and I was able to ask somebody else independently that worked in a different hotel, same story. And then I went to the Red Cross and I said, is this true? Or are you guys actually housing homeless people from Oahu and shipping people from Lahaina over to Oahu? And they said, the Red Cross does not discriminate. That was the answer. And it's a prefabbed answer. And so it's such a cluster out here. Cluster of lies, cluster of incompetence, and it's not getting any better. If anything, it's getting worse.
Oh, it's terrible to hear. I guess we should end with a palate cleanser. Here's the way that Joe Biden was welcomed to Lahaina. We were really excited when we originally saw this video. You did say that this is how the people of can we get some audio on this?
Finally here.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. Awesome.
You did say they didn't like.
Thanks for nothing.
Biden rolling through.
You.
So Nick, we posted this, and some of the commenters were like, "Oh, these are just right-wing racists. Just a small group of right-wing racists on the island. This doesn't reflect what the actual island thinks of Joe Biden." Are they wrong?
Yeah. So here's the thing: the way that the Hawaiian people are, most of them, while they might have the same sentiments like that, they're not screaming on a street corner. They're very reserved people. I mean, they've lived on an island thousands of miles away from any other islands. They're not used to stuff like this. But more and more people are getting vocal. These are not right wingers, or hardly any right wingers out here. It's not exactly a conservative paradise.
Yeah, doesn't seem like a paradise for anyone. And if the government gets done with it, it seems like it'll just be a little playground exclusive to billionaires. And maybe that was the plan all along. We'll see. Nick, thank you so much for your reporting. Where can people follow your work?
Follow me on X. It's at Nick Sortor, NickSortor, and I post a lot on there. And hopefully, we're going to ramp that up this weekend. We have a team coming in actually this weekend.
Oh, fantastic!
On Sunday night, and so we're going to be able to ramp up content pretty heavily. That's what I'm saying, Benny. This story's not going away. It's just going to get worse for the government out here.
Good man. Good man. Such a fan. Thank you, Nick, for bringing light to this important issue. Godspeed.
Thank you for having me, Benny.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't trust the government. Don't trust your public officials who have made a career out of lying to you, and certainly don't trust the corporate media. Where are they on this story exactly? I can listen to hours and hours and hours on end about Elon Musk and Starlink and Ukraine, but nothing about Lahaina, nothing about these poor Democrats that had their cities burned to the ground, these native peoples who had their cities burned to the ground. Why is it always us? Why is it always shows like ours that like actually ends up caring? Well, because we actually do literally love America, and we care about the people inside of this country, regardless of what their political stripe may be or where they come from. And I think that's something to be treasured, cherished, and protected. Thank you for supporting our channel, and thank you for being part of the Benny Brigade. We look forward to bringing you more exclusive content and helping out those around us in this country. God bless you. See ya.